Hi everyone, it's Hector, Cochise County Voice. I'm in my kitchen today and I have a special guest, a candidate for City Council of Benson. I am going to let her introduce herself. First, she'll tell you why she is running and where she came from and how she ended up in Benson. And then after that, we're going to go ahead and talk a little bit about the issues that are facing Benson. There are some very specific ones that have been, that are sort of hot potatoes in town. And so I'm going to let her introduce herself, and then we'll take a little break and then talk more about each one of the issues facing the town. So,
cool.
Take it away.
Thanks. I'm Crystal Anderson, and I am running for City Council 2026. It's July 21st is the voting date, so vote. I arrived in Benson. My family moved here when I was 3. So I went to Benson School until 3rd grade, and then we moved to St. David, and then I graduated from St. David in 2007. I went off for college, and I had a first husband, so I was gone for a couple of years, and then I moved back, I don't know, I want to say 12 years ago, I moved back into Benson. My family got older, my parents got older, so I wanted to be closer. And my brother is in Tucson. He also graduated from Benson, and my sister graduated from Benson, but she's in Oklahoma. So
Awesome. Well, look, that's a fairly classic Benson upbringing, actually, right? And you've lived in a way, the way that a lot of people do, in Benson, sometimes in St. David, or sometimes, it's in the areas nearby.
mm-hmm.
But in this part of the county, Benson is the core of the civics and politics.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you've obviously grown up here, you've seen it in its good days, bad days.
Yeah.
And now, what made you decide to take the step to run for office? It's a big decision. What made you go for it?
I am not a politician. I will be the first to say that. I have no idea about politics until this last year. I've been diving into it. I've been learning about it. It was never on the top of my list of what I wanted to know about, because there was so much corruption and hate, and I didn't like, those weren't my people. So I never wanted to be a part of politics.
Yeah.
But truthfully, what upset me and started getting me more passionate was a lot of rubber stamping and a lot of stuff that I kind of saw, like the wasteful spending that I saw when I started looking into the financials during the ADI situation. And I was strictly just trying to figure out the process, figure out what was going on, because I'm an accountant. So by heart, I want to know. I want to know if there is something wrong, or if there's, I don't want to use the word corruption, but I want to use wasteful spending. I think there's a lot of wasteful spending, and that's why I'm standing up. It's something that I have experience in, and it's something that I can help recover.
Yeah, and I think everyone that runs has at least one thing that really pushes them into that activism. It's, you talk a little bit about not wanting to be into politics. It's unfortunate because I think civic, being a volunteer and participating in civics, this doesn't necessarily have to be political. It's about serving the community.
Yeah.
Everyone's interests are relatively the same, and so. But it is, I think, politics has sort of infected a lot of what jobs that used to be fairly, non-political,
Yes.
non-partisan. So it's unfortunate, but I'm glad you stepped up. And you're a younger person, you don't have gray hair at least.
It's
Visible.
not dyed.
Visible.
It's not dyed.
And but that's okay. Sometimes. Personally, although I'm a gray-haired person myself, I get tired of not having representation, because a lot of the decisions that are being made by the council, in reality, they're going to be affecting people 15, 20 years down the road.
Mm-hmm.
And to be fair, some of us, they're going to be pretty old by then.
Yeah.
And so I appreciate having at least the insight of someone from another generation you know, that's grown up around here and you know, has seen it, like I said, good and bad. You know, I'd like to see a little bit more of that. And I know that our council it's got a good range, but I always want to see it on that other side. Because I think, you know, personally, I think it takes a long time actually to become a good public servant.
Yeah. There's a lot to learn.
I'm glad you brought that up. So, because
I'm trying.
the makeup, so that was the intro, guys. We're gonna launch right into some of the issues, and also talk a little bit about you know these video segments and you know what we're trying to do. You know, you mentioned ADI, and with the other in interviews, I didn't bring it up very much because there was an unknown there. We didn't know what was happening.
Oh,
or
now we know.
yeah, we do know now. And but with that said, so that changes the situation a little bit. It was the coming of that plant that really instigated, first of all, that recall, you know, which happened in the very same year as an election year. Recalls themselves are fairly unusual. You hear more about them, I think, in the news, just because you know we hear about all the news. But so it's an unusual thing to happen.
Yeah, I did witness. I did try to guide people to go and talk and to find out what they needed to find out. And I did support it. Like I did sign my name. I felt that the people weren't being heard. And I spoke multiple times at city councils about that and saying, like, if you're going to turn your other cheek, like, you're allowing it to come in. And by saying it's not my problem, it is your problem because your community is saying that it's your problem. Yeah. And I think that's also kind of why I stood up. Like, I felt unheard. I felt like we just weren't being spoken to. We were being spoken down to. And it was just really weird unbalance, I think. And I didn't like it. Yeah, that's not what Benson used to be.
No, and well, so the council had an issue basically, and one of them obviously was communication. They weren't communicative enough, but also they were just very timid about it. I think they were just afraid, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Threatened of a lawsuit.
Well, no, I think what they were afraid of is that they, with something that big, I just think they knew there was going to be opposition.
Yeah, it should have been pushed to the people to have a vote instead of one word.
I don't know if there's a process for that, but obviously knowing much earlier on would have been much better.
Yeah.
And that's, what that was, and so that's happened. I don't want to, rehash this stuff. It's been clearly outlined and written about, but
it's been a long year.
ADI is gone, but now we have a dramatic change in the council.
Yes.
And one of the big changes in the council is there's a lot of people that are fairly inexperienced, and that includes yourself.
Absolutely.
And the areas that they're inexperienced in are just basically with how the council works. It's, how the mechanics of the job itself. There's just so many details, right? Now, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Right, with taking on the job and wanting to do it. And I try, in the other episodes, I've tried not to be, preachy or tell people what to do. But the council, it's interesting that people want like an individual council member that can somehow, solve all their problems.
Yeah.
But that's just not the way councils work. The very essence of a council is to bring people with various.
We each, like you were saying, we each have a talent.
Yeah, right. You what you do is you all bring something to the table.
Yeah.
And another thing that seems to be, that I'd like to remind people of is that when elected officials get elected into office, no matter what vehicle they used, whether all the Republicans voted for you or whether all the Democrats voted for you or whether it was all the anti-ADI people voted for you, no matter what vehicle, once you're in office, you represent everyone in that office.
Yes.
And that includes everyone, even
Yes.
the ones that were calling you names
Yes.
and that were spitting at you or whatever it was.
Yeah.
That wasn't happening, but
Figuratively.
there was some nastiness throughout this year, but
I think there was unprofessionalism on both sides. I will be the first to say that.
Yeah.
I think that it was just a very heated moment, and a lot of people were very upset. The opposing side was upset that they were going to ruin our livelihood, and the supporters were upset that we were going to ruin their livelihood. So it was very common, honestly. And like I said in the beginning, I don't care what side of the fence you stand on. We are on the same ground. And I believe that fully in my heart. Even the people that have said hurtful things, I'm not going to hold that against them in the end. That's how they felt, and they have every right to feel that way.
Yeah.
Well, I would like us all to campaign together. I would like us all to meet and greet the community together. And just, be the best man win kind of scenario. Instead of being at each other's throats and being not very nice to one another. I think that that's unfortunate. We're all part of this community, and there shouldn't be. I'm a stickler for rules and processes, and I don't know. I'm a tattletale at heart. My husband tells me all the time, snitches get stitches. And I'm like, what up?
Oh, man.
But I'll tattle myself too. Like, it's awful.
In those work sessions, that's when you can do all the dialogue. Sessions was where all this stuff happens, and sometimes they kind of show up at the council meetings, and then, where there's just up and down votes, and then they're like, oh, there's no discussion. And it's like, no, there should have been discussion, but just not, they just don't, it doesn't happen at the meetings.
Yeah.
By the time it gets to the meeting, to the up and down vote, almost everyone should know how they're gonna vote, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But,
So then should the community show up to work sessions?
well, what I think the council should do better, right, is execute a work session, tell the public what happened at the work session, so that they know what is going to be expected at the meeting itself, right?
Yeah.
And stop having work sessions immediately before meetings.
Yeah.
So that people, because here's what happens when you have a work session before a meeting is you make all the discussions during the work session, and then you immediately vote on it.
Yeah, nobody knows what's going on.
Well, that information,
Like in the crowd.
the dialogue itself hasn't had a chance to spread out to the public, right?
Yeah, no, I agree.
So if there's any dialogue that was, if there were any suggestions or anything that needed to be figured out, you shouldn't have like an hour to make up your mind.
Oh yeah, no, not at all. Like, how does the council even have time to research or go? Like, if, let's say somebody showed up to the work session and they said, hey, this is my question about blah, blah, blah. And then the council's like, okay, and they discussed it right there. Where's their time to research it and actually give?
Or to consider it in any way, right? If you don't tell people what happened at the work session, then they're for sure not going to know.
Yeah.
They're going to be surprised at the meetings, right?
Yeah.
Because if somehow at the work session you all agreed to vote yes, and then you vote yes at the meeting and nobody knows why, people are like, where's the discussion?
Yeah, so do better at relaying the message.
Once you've discussed it, right? So that you don't like for example, the work session this week was on Monday,
Yeah.
and then the meeting was on Thursday.
Yes.
Right. So
I missed both.
between Monday, it was a great work session.
What's that?
Yeah, it's one of the best ones.
Oh, I heard something about the library.
Oh, that was a good one too.
That was-
We're getting rid of that thing. I know. Being elected, right? It's like you could be, if you intensely dislike what's happening now, the minute you are elected, you are the thing that's happening now.
Yes.
So,
And I think that council.
so you can't say council sucks, right? Because
Yeah, you're a part of it.
yeah, because now it's you.
Yeah, and I don't think it's fair to say council sucks. I don't think that is honestly how we should look at it. Like I said earlier, I'm not mad at council, and I don't necessarily blame them for what happened. I blame the people also. Like, it takes two.
No, I'm happy for the change. I'm happy that folks are much more attentive and they show up at more meetings and they dialogue more, and it's on, on Facebook and stuff a lot more.
Yeah.
All that stuff is great. It keeps everybody on their toes, and I think you can see it now. You can see that the council's more lively that way, and they're more eager to try to get the word out. And Levi, he said he's gonna do his best
Yeah.
to be more, outgoing. And,
Yeah, I'm trying to get everybody out.
and the same with, with Tony. He said he's gonna, get these citizens review groups and, everyone.
It's great ideas, right?
Those are all great
Community
ideas.
outreach programs.
Implement them.
Yeah.
So a lot of great ideas always, when people are running, and then of course the reality sinks in when they get in there and they're like, So
it takes more than one person in that.
So, yeah, it takes a whole council.
Yeah.
And
so and I do see that, and I understand it too. And so if a particular council member feels so strongly about something because they have the feedback from the community, it's their job to feed it to the other council members and be like, this is what I did, this is the feedback that I got. And I bet if you did that and you did your homework and you did all that work, the council people will be like, okay, yeah, you're right. And so if you pledge your case for the people, I think that the council members would be more susceptible to it instead of being like, no, get out.
Well, we'll see how it works out in those meetings. Like I said, the work sessions are great. I hope that they continue to kind of, or at least Megan continues to kind of work with those guys to kind of get them up to speed. So we have a new budget for 2026 and 2027.
Yeah.
Whenever you can take a look at that, we'll talk a little bit more. All right.